14,897 in expanded form. So let me just rewrite the number and I'll color code it, and that way we can keep track of our digits. So we have 14,000. So one, yeah, I don't have to write. Well, let me write it that big. 14,890 and 97. Let's see, I already used the blue. Maybe I should use yellow. And 97 in expanded form. So let's think about what place each of these digits are in. This right here, the 7 is in the ones place. This is in the ones place. This is in the ones place. The 9 is in the tens place. The 9 is in the tens place. This literally represents 9 tens, and we're going to see this in a second. This literally represents 7 ones. The 8 is in the hundreds place. This is in the hundreds place. The 4 is in the thousands place. It literally represents 4,000. So this is in the thousands place. And then the 1 is in the 10,000s place. Is in the 10,000s place. And you see, every time you move to the left, you move one place to the left, you're multiplying by 10. Ones place, tens place, hundreds place, thousands place, 10,000s place. Now let's think about what that really means. If this 1 is in the 10,000s place, that means that it literally represents. So this 1 literally represents, well, I want to do this in a way that my arrows don't get mixed up. Actually, let me start at the other end. Let me start with the 7 represents. The 7 literally represents 7 ones. 7 ones. Or another way to think about it, it also, you could say, it represents 7 times 1. All of these are equivalent. It represents 7 ones. Now let's think about the 9. That's why I'm doing it from the right, so that the arrows don't have to cross each other. So what does the 9 represent? It represents 9 tens. You could literally imagine you have 9 actual tens. You could have a 10 plus a 10 plus a 10. Do that 9 times. That's literally what it represents. 9 actual tens. 9 tens. Or you could say it's the same thing as 9 times 10 or 90, either way you want to think about it. So let me write all the different ways to think about it. Or 90. It represents all of these things. 9 tens or 9 times 10 or 90. So then we have our 8. Our 8 represents, we see it's in the hundreds place. It represents 8 hundreds. 8 hundreds. Or you could view that as being equivalent to 8 times 100. 100, not 1,000. 8 times 100, or 800. That 8 literally represents 800s. 800. And then the 4. I think you get the idea here. This represents in the thousands place. It represents 4,000s. 4,000s, which is the same thing as 4 times 1,000, which is the same thing as 4,000. 4,000 is the same thing as 4,000s added up. And then finally we have this 1, which is sitting in the 10,000s place. So it literally represents 1 10,000. 10,000. 1 10,000, or you could imagine it. You can imagine if these were kind of chips, kind of poker chips, that would represent one of the blue poker chip, and each blue poker chip represents 10,000. I don't know if that helps you or not. And 1 10,000 is the same thing as 1 times 10,000, which is the same thing as 10,000. So when they ask us to write it in expanded form, we could write 14,897 literally as the sum of these numbers, of kind of its components. Or we could write it as the sum of these numbers. And actually, let me write this. This top 7 times 1 is just equal to 7. So 14,897 is the same thing as 10,000, 10,000 plus 4,000 plus 4,000 plus 800, 800 plus 800 plus 90, that's the 90, or 90 plus 90 plus 7, plus 7. So you could consider this expanded form, or you could use this version of it. Or you could say this is the same thing as 1 times 10,000, depending on what people consider to be expanded form, plus 4 times 1,000 plus 8 times 100. 8 times 100 plus 9 times 10 plus 9 times 10 plus 7 times 1. Scroll to the right a little bit. Plus 7 times 1. So either of these could be considered expanded form.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice with just writing numbers in expanded form because you're going to be using that today as you work through your math lesson. Okay, so if I have a number, say 539, okay, I have a 5 in the hundreds, a 3 in the tens, and a 9 in the ones. Okay, so I'm going to look at that place value of each number and say, what is it worth? Okay, so if I go to my 5 in the hundreds, if I have a 5 in the hundreds, it's worth 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. So 5 is worth 500. To that, I'm going to add my number in my tens, which is a 3. I have 3 tens. 10, 20, 30. I'm counting by tens this time because it's in the tens place value and it's worth 30. Okay, I'm going to go to my ones, which is a 9. If I have 9 ones, it's just worth 9. So the number 539 written in expanded form is 500 plus 30 plus 9, just like in our video example. Let's look at another example. If I have a number 6,403, okay, let's look at this number for a minute. I have 6,403. I have a 0 here. Let me show you what we can do for that. So let's start with writing our number out. Start my largest place value with my 6, which is in the thousands. So if it's a 6 in the thousands, it's worth 6,000. Okay. To that, I'm going to add my hundreds. I have a 4 in the hundreds, so it's worth 400. Now let's get to my tens here. I have a 0 there. So I can do one of two things. I can add a 0 to hold its place value. That's fine too. I don't necessarily need to, but I can. And then I would just add my ones. Okay, and there's 3 ones. So you could do it that way, or you could write it and not even put the 0 in. And if you've left the 0 completely out because there's 0 in the tens, you would write this as 6,000 plus your 400, and then just add 3. Okay, because even though we don't have that tens there, it's still telling me I have 4 in the hundreds and 3 in the ones. Okay, and if I tell somebody 6,000 plus 400 plus 3, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, there are no tens. Okay, let me do one more for you. If I have 3,948, let's write that number in expanded form. Start with your largest place value first, 3,000s. Okay, 3,000s is worth 3,000. We go to my hundreds, I have a 9. 900 plus 4 tens is 40 plus 8. Okay, so 3,000 plus 900 plus 40 plus 8 equals 3,948. The next couple problems you're going to be working on is just reviewing and practicing writing numbers in expanded form. On each slide, you're going to have a number, and you're also going to have a place value chart that you can refer back to in case you need some help remembering which place value it is, okay? And of course, you can always refer back to this video also.